Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 486, Feeding Plant-Powered Punks with Margot Freitag.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Margot Freitag all about plant-powered punks. Margot's made it cool for youngsters to get into the kitchen and learn how to cook plant-based for themselves. We talk about the power that kids have to try new foods and eat new foods when they're part of the cooking process. We explore how families who cook together can be healthier and happier together, and how teachers can have a greater influence in the kitchen. We're not going to beat around the bush anymore, but this is a fun little episode that you're going to want to share with other parents and teachers.
Margot is a certified personal trainer and plant-based nutrition expert who has positively impacted thousands by guiding them in restoring their health. Rooted in personal leadership and behavioral change, her teachings emphasize plant-based nutrition. Alongside her career, Margot, a certified high school teacher, primarily taught drama and English literature. Recently, she authored Plant-Powered Punks, a children's cookbook inspired by her own plant-thriving kids. Margot envisions her work as a catalyst for children, parents, and teachers to enjoy creating delicious, healthy whole plant foods, promoting better energy levels and well-being. Great book by a great author. You're going to love this one, so share it out.
Hey everyone, now it's more important than ever to stay close and connected to us, as we're going to be making some changes here at Plant Trainers. So please head over to planttrainers.com and get our plant-based comfort foods recipe book for free. That's a $14.99 value just by signing up for our newsletter so that you can know what changes are, because we want to make sure that we stay in touch.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful for fresh starts. Here we are in January, and it's just wonderful to be able to say day one. In fact, any day could be day one.
And here we go. I'm grateful for the new year. It's going to be a great one, and I hope it's a great one for you as well.
Woohoo! Margot Freitag, thank you so much for joining us again on the Plant Trainers Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're very excited to talk to you again. You were on episode 328, so we're about 150 plus episodes since then now, but
Wow.
It's always wonderful to catch back up with people, hear about their expertise at the moment, and talk about what you're up to. But before we get into that, we want to know if you have a moment of gratitude to share with us and the listeners.
Yes, I do. I am so grateful right now that my daughter is home from university. So my family is together again for the holiday season, and it feels really good. Very grateful for that.
Nice. Sometimes it's like, all right, when are our kids going to university? We're not at your stage yet. But
How old are they
nice to have
now?
them back. 15 and 13.
Oh, yeah. It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
And how old are yours?
19 and 22.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it gets a little lonely with the house, not hustling and bustling as much.
Yes, it's very different. My son is still at home. He stayed home to do school, and he's finished now, but he's still living in the house. So we still have a body here, which is nice. Yeah.
That is nice. That's good.
Yeah.
So back on 328, we talked about asthma and allergies, and I do want people to go back and have a listen to that to hear about it in full. But why don't you give us a little quick overview of how you found plant-based living again and how it changed some of the things in the family?
Sure. So I struggled with asthma, severe asthma. Like, I was in the hospital a lot as a little kid. And in those days, they didn't have Ventolin. So I would get a shot of norepinephrine in my arm, and then they'd put me on prednisone, and then they'd put me in a croup tent. And that's, I don't know if you know what that is in the hospital. It's like a crib, and then there's a plastic cover over it. And I would just lay there and, wheeze for several days, and then I'd go home. And so it was a scary for both my parents and for me. And it didn't really go away. A lot of times doctors will say, your child might grow out of it, et cetera. I never did. So it was always a problem for me. And it really did interfere with the things that I wanted to do with my life, like have pets and do high intensity sports and all of these things. Even though I did do them, once Ventolin came out, I was sort of did whatever I wanted to do with Ventolin in tow. It didn't always work. And so there were some scary times. But when I was a little bit older, I was in my 20s and I was living in Vancouver. I was going to school there, and I ended up having Brenda Davis as a nutrition teacher. She was teaching a course, and I was in school, and the nutrition prof, for whatever reason, canceled, and Brenda was the sub for the program or for the course. And so I had her for an entire semester. And, what I really remember about Brenda's message was we never got a copy of the Canada Food Guide, at the beginning of the course. Instead, she talked about things a little differently. Some of the things we eat make us sick, and some of the things we eat make us healthy or benefit our health. And so I had this kind of idea in the back of my mind. I knew that there were a lot of things about dairy and other animal foods that I really should be eliminating. And it took me some time. I didn't do everything all at once, and I certainly didn't make all of the changes. I was a food addict, a cheese addict, let's say that. But when my little boy was 3, several years later, he was diagnosed with asthma, and I knew what we needed to do. And so we just sort of went cold turkey. I was so worried for him. And within a week, I would say within a week, our lungs were clear. We didn't have any signs of asthma. And so it was just so life altering. There were other things about that too. I didn't realize that I had been in a fog pretty much my whole life. My brain cleared, my body just got well, and my skin cleared up, my intestinal tract, started functioning properly. Everything got better. And my children thrived on a plant-based diet. We weren't extreme, there were lots of birthday parties and outings and things like that. And so we just kind of went with it. We just did what we could do at home and did the best we could. And it really did make a big difference. So when I got into teaching about plant-based nutrition later on, it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something a little bit more oriented for children.
So that was so first of all, it's a wonderful story. And of course, we've heard it before, but it's nice to hear that version again and be reminded of Brenda Davis. But we started off the conversation talking about how the kids are older now, and how, one, they're both, studying now, and one's not home. And now you have this amazing plant-powered punks book. So it's always been in the back of your mind. What made you go forth with a kid's cookbook now when your kids are maybe aged out of that a little bit?
Yeah. So the truth is, being really transparent here, is it's just a matter of procrastination. So when my kids were in elementary school, I was also a teacher at the time, and I could see it everywhere. I could see in my own classroom, I was teaching high school, and I could see in my children's environment in their school, there is so much bad food, just so much terrible food. And you can really see the correlation between behavior, energy levels, focus, and just overall well-being between what a child's eating for lunch and how everything is working for them. And so I knew when the kids were small, that I wanted to make this cookbook. And I had this vision that they would be in the cookbook and their friends would be in the cookbook. And, I was busy. I was a busy mom, and I just sort of let it go. But it was always in the back of my mind. So I just had some time, and some sort of things changed in my life in the last couple of years, and so this was kind of my catharsis. It was sort of like my little escape. I just would go and work on my book, and yeah. So it just was something that I finally got done. Let's just put it that way.
You said that the food impacts the behavior of the students, and I see it every day because I teach in a high school also, and I see it every day in the afternoon. They come out of their lunch period eating all the crap that they're bringing to school, and they're off the walls. And it's such an important message that we need to get to parents, that the impact food has on not only their health, but their behavior and being able to keep them from acting out and acting up, it really can have and probably has a lot to do with the food that they're putting in their body. And a lot of people just don't make that connection. And I think we got to get this book out to those parents right away. It's like important. It's a big deal, and teachers can benefit from it in their classrooms, just from being able to have students that could actually sit in a desk and pay attention rather than jumping all over the place.
Adam, I agree with you so much. Even the food additives, artificial color, MSG, sodium benzoate, all of these artificial ingredients that are in convenience foods, a lot of them are directly linked, and they've proven to, that they're linked to ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, ADD and OCD, and, hyperactivity. And, yes, you can see it. And not only is that wearing on their academics, right? Like they're off the walls, they can't focus, they can't pay attention. But what does it do to them? Everybody's mad at them. Teachers get angry, sit down, be quiet, control yourself. And they just can't, and they don't know why they can't. They just know that they can't sit still. So it takes a toll on their emotional health and their mental well-being as well. So I do think it's important.
And then they become adults who have brain fog and who have tempers and who have ADHD or can't hold a job, right? It doesn't just sit with childhood. So when we start at the grassroots, we're able to impact a whole new generation. So, I mean, eating well is for everyone, right? Everyone, period. Yeah. But what age did you concentrate on in this book?
So this book is really for little ones. It's about ages, I would say grades 1 to 6, kindergarten to 7, somewhere in there. I have a matching chef hat and aprons that I'll show you later. But I noticed that by the time kids are kind of 9, 10 years old, they're not interested in that anymore.
Right.
So, it's the little ones who really like the animation and the pictures of the kids preparing food and, the bright colored pictures and the pictures of the food. We've had some fun with that. And so the little ones really like it. And the idea is not that we just give the kids the book and tell them to go and start cooking. The idea is that this is something that parents or teachers in the classroom can do with children so that it's a learning environment and it's experiential learning. And so, I have this little beet. It's actually a little red beet, and that's the symbol for any step that requires adult supervision. So, the idea is that we get kids confident in the kitchen with some safety measures and, an adult close by that can lend a hand. But definitely by the time kids are teenagers, they're not going to be interested. Hopefully we can establish some good habits early on, and then we don't have to worry about the teen years, right?
I think that's the key. You got to establish the habits early as possible and hope that they carry through with some of them when they're old enough to make their own decisions and choices. And I know we struggled with that forever, and our kids are still eating the way we eat. They tend to eat a little less healthy than we used to because they're older now. And
that's right.
Still plant-based, just a little bit more processed.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the progression that we've gone through, and it's difficult. And then hopefully at some point we'll get back to the more healthy foods.
But they also say certain things. Like Russell will say sometimes like, oh, I already had so much bread today. I need to have something different in my food. Or Sage might say, yeah, I've been eating that, but it's a little bit too oily. I don't want something so oily anymore. So they are starting to make bring those connections back where, a couple of years ago, she would like chop up her own salads and we'd be like, amazing. When was the last time she ate salad? But she tends to eat one thing at a time. Like a lot of grapes, a lot of carrots, a lot of lettuce. But yeah, so they kind of bring things back. And, we really have to look at that difference between parent-centered plant-based eating and child-centered plant-based eating. And I think we gave our children a lot of opportunity to cook with us, to be in our videos, to be at demonstrations that we did and be a part of that. So talk to us a little bit about how you see the difference between that parent-centered plant-based and the child-centered plant-based and how that can make an impact.
I think whatever you're starting with some people are starting off and they're fresh out of the gate trying to eat more plant-based nutrition, and they're doing that with their family as they're learning. And so, I think it's different for everybody. But I do think that a child, I think we have to get away from this idea that there is kid food. I've heard actually a pediatrician talk about kid food being hot dogs and hamburgers and French fries. And
we're just going to take a little break here because I want to share with you that growth is something that happens for everyone and every business. And we've been going through a lot of personal and professional growth here at Plant Trainers, and we want to stay connected with you. That's why we're giving away our plant-based comfort food ebook that's worth $14.99 for free at our website at planttrainers.com, or by clicking the link in the show notes. Click on that, get on our newsletter, because we're going to be making some serious changes and you need to be aware of what's going on. We look forward to connecting with you there. And now back to the show.
And I think we need to get away from the idea of calling junk food kid food, because it's hard to break up with. If you're eating like that when you're a kid, you're eating that way as an adult, unless you make some changes, right? But I think what I think you're asking me is how our food might be different than our child's food as far as eating plant-based. Is that what you mean?
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is the impact of parents feeding kids and saying, this is what's for dinner. I've made it. Here it is. Eat it, versus getting kids involved in the cooking process so that they can own it and be empowered by it.
Oh, yeah. Huge. It's huge. So you already know this, I know.
Well, yeah. But I want to hear you explain it.
Yeah. So, and that's partly why I did it this way, because when you get children into the kitchen, touching and feeling and smelling and tasting ingredients and putting them all in together and creating something, they're going to be far more inclined to give it a try. Nobody wants to eat anything that they don't know what's in it, even us, right? And so kids, if they're part of it, they're proud of the creation and they know exactly what's inside, and they already know about some of the tastes and the smells. So they know what to expect. And so I think it's just night and day. I mean, if kids can have play a part in creating the food, I think it's going to make just a massive difference.
For sure. So is this book a bunch of recipes that are kid friendly that they could do with their parents?
Yeah, it's more of a teaching cookbook. So there are only 28 recipes. I just felt some of these cookbooks have 150 recipes, and I just find that overwhelming. And I'm sure kids do too. What I wanted to create was a sort of a teaching cookbook where parents and kids can work together through the recipes, and not to overwhelm, but just to give everybody a sample of all of the different kinds of things that are available. And definitely something that kids can do together with their parents or a guardian, or also can be done in a classroom with a teacher.
So pick your favorite ones. What are some of those favorite recipes inside there?
Do you want me to show you?
Pick your favorite child. Sure. Show us. Okay. For those that are on YouTube, they can see it, but we need to describe it too, because most of our beautiful listeners are on audio.
Okay. So one of my favorites, I picked a couple, and then my husband picked one too. But one of my favorites is called the Veggie Voom Quinoa Burgers, and they're quinoa burgers. And they are super delicious. So that's Collie and Flower, our mascots.
Cute.
We try to get them on the pages, but here's a picture of the veggie quinoa burger. And you can see we've got all of the instructions broken down into steps so that kids can do that together with parents. And then we have the other favorite of mine is almond cheese.
Ooh.
So almond cheese is actually really easy to make. You probably know that. And basically, we get kids to have fun with soaking almonds and getting used to doing that kind of thing and spending maybe more than one day creating a recipe. The other thing about this almond cheese recipe is it doesn't have to be baked, and it can be used soft as a spread. So there's flour. I'm sorry about the glare, but there's flour giving her ball of almond cheese a big hug.
Aw.
Nice.
I've actually never made almond cheese.
Oh, well,
I've
you'll
made a
have to give
cashew
it a try.
spread before, but I'm not a big cheese maker. I'm scared if I make them, I'll eat it all, but I have to make that one now. I
Well,
think.
you probably will eat it all. It's really good. It's really good, but no guilt. No
No
guilt.
guilt. There you go. No guilt.
And then my husband's favorite is the crazy cauliflower bites. And we have 3 different sauces that can go on top, that can be, you can toss the cauliflower in, and they're delicious.
Cauliflower bites are a winner.
Yeah, that's always a winner in our house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious. Amazing. And I love the pictures in there. Like you said before, now that we have the visual of that, it's not just mix. You have a picture of what mixing looks like. So it really is learning as they go. So if there is no beat on that line, they could do it on their own. I remember my daughter, when she first started cooking and following recipes, I wanted her to be as independent as possible. So I did stand back, but she'd run to me every step and say, what does beat mean? Or what does mix mean? Or what do I use to mix? Do I use a spoon or do I use a fork? So having those instructions, but also allowing, like, clearly they have the ability to try something different to mix and see if that works too. The visuals are huge, and some kids are auditory and some kids are visual and some kids are tactile. So there's a little bit of everything for them in the book.
Yeah, there definitely is. I did send you an electronic version. I had the flu, so I didn't get around to mailing you a copy, but I will.
It's okay.
And I don't know if you were able to open the electronic version, but it's there for you to download if you'd like.
Perfect.
What do you say to the parents that are looking at this book and saying, well, my kids won't eat that, they're too picky? How would I get them to work on these recipes if they're so fancy? Or are they even fancy? Or
they're not fancy.
What do I
They're
do
really...
with my kids that are picky eaters? Will they still eat
my
these
kid would
foods?
never eat quinoa.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
What would you say?
So I would say get your kid in the kitchen doing the thing, and that will change things. I mean, if I gave I think the average child, if you put a quinoa burger in front of them, they would probably, say, what's that? But if they were in the kitchen mixing all the ingredients up and putting it together themselves and making the patties and creating the burger, it's a different story. I think we really need to get kids more involved. Kids aren't really involved with their food, and I think this is a problem across the board. Kids don't know where their food comes from, and I don't know if that comes from the standard American diet. Probably, we typically wouldn't want our kids to know where chickens and or beef came from, or these things. And I wonder if that's just become a theme, and we tend to lean toward more packaged foods that they don't have a lot of nutrients, but there's lots of salt and sugar and fat, and they taste good, and kids are used to them. But I think if kids get a chance to really know what their food is made of, it's just a win-win. I mean, they're going to like it, they're going to learn something, and they're going to be proud of it.
And I think they'll learn the processes. So if there's somebody who doesn't like a lot of texture and they learn, oh, wait, if I blend that a little bit longer in the processor, it'll be a little bit smoother and I might like it. So they could learn that they might like the flavor, but not like the texture. So they could become more vocal and descriptive about the things that they do like and don't like. And I think the reason why children don't know where their food is coming from so much is, after the industrial revolution and having supermarkets and all of that, not as many more, we're living in cities. We're not living in the fields anymore and picking our own food, and life is so busy and we're overprogrammed and we're rushing home from work to get kids to dance and gymnastics and soccer and running to the grocery store. They're not seeing the fields anymore. They're barely seeing the grocery store anymore. They're not walking down with a quarter in their pocket to the bakery to get the bagels, and they could see the bagel oven and be like, wow, that's how they bake bagels. So, they're just...
And they were a quarter?
They were really a lot less than a quarter. I don't know. I'm thinking my grandmother this week, and I know her grandmother had a bagel place. So she knew how baking worked because she was in that environment. She wasn't on her phone 24/7, doing all the things on the phone. Yeah. So it's a different world, but understanding baby carrots don't come from a can. They grow in the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that is huge. And there's going to be they're going to have more appreciation for the work that their adults do to provide food for them and put food on the table on the days where they're not cooking as well. And I think that plays a big part in them wanting to taste things and try things as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely.
So Plant Powered Punks, where do we get the book, and how can our listeners or viewers connect with you, Margot? Please tell us.
Okay, so Plant Powered Punks is available at all fine book retailers. We're still working on the price. In Canada, it seems to be ridiculous at Amazon, but you can get it at Indigo. You just have to order it. It's at Barnes & Noble in the States, and all of the other book outlets. You can get it pretty well anywhere. In the States, Amazon in the States, the price is far more reasonable than Amazon in Canada. I don't know why. I can't figure it. But anyway, it's there. It's available. And we have the chef hat and apron sets here, and we are shipping them out. So if anybody's interested in those, they're super cute. And we are also starting a membership site for parents and teachers. It's filled with lesson plans and nutrition guides, and there's a video library for instruction. And it's just a great resource for anybody who is looking to be the expert for their child or for their classroom. So yeah, there's that too.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the Plant Trainers podcast today. I think that this would make a great gift for any teacher, for any parent, for any kid. So definitely get your books and send us the pictures. We'd love to see the pictures of what your kids are making. So send that into our Instagram at Plant Trainers, and we could share it with Margot too. Send it to Margot as well. Where would people find you on Instagram?
Sure. So I'm at Margot Freitag on Instagram, and Plant Powered Punks on YouTube, and that's kind of it. I'm not great with social media, but I'm working on it.
All right. Well, we'll link to all that in our show notes at planttrainers.com, and people can go there to grab those links and check you out. And thank you so much for being with us here on the Plant Trainers podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is at Plant Trainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.